Hey, it's Jason ODB, aka the Lincoln Addict, and as promised, gonna bring you guys some more content here on my YouTube channel, Lincoln Addict. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, please subscribe, give me a like, leave a comment. Also, if you love Lincoln Continentals, maybe you owned one, you rode in one as a child, maybe you're looking to purchase one in the future, check out Lincoln Addict Podcast, however you find podcasts. Some of you might be scratching your head going, hey, what is a podcast? If you've got an iPhone, you have a pre-installed podcast app. It's a purple icon. Tap on it. If you've never opened it, you're not going to have any podcasts in there. Just search Lincoln Addict and go ahead and subscribe. It's that easy. If you're on Android, you can, of course, use Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, you name it. So many different platforms now to consume podcasts. So thank you guys so much. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at an older Motor Trend magazine. So long before they owned kind of the television station that they have now, the Motor Trend app, all that stuff. They, of course, for many years, I don't know exactly how many, they had a magazine. And we'll look at, I think it's April of 1964, to look at the road test that they did for the 64 Lincoln Continental. Now, I also wanted to mention to you guys, I sometimes mention the other podcast that I do. The other podcast is actually titled Our Lifestyle Podcast, which is OLP for short. And this was my truck, bada bing. It's actually still own it. And it's a custom truck, a lot of work into it. It's got those Colorado custom wheels right there. They, of course, are the same wheels, same wheel brand, I should say, that I'll be running on my 64 Lincoln. But this is my pride and joy Lincoln my 94 S10. And of course, I've got the 64 Lincoln. And I say that because, you guys will sometimes hear me talk about OLP or the other podcast I produce, and wanted you guys to kind of know the bridge there. Now, I've been into the trucks. These are known as mini trucks for many years since I was really in middle school. But believe it or not, I've been into the Lincolns pretty much the same amount of time. Growing up, I was born on November 23rd, and always around my birthday, there'd be the specials, there'd be the documentation or the documentaries and things like that about JFK and his, untimely assassination in 63. So, kind of just as a young adult, started reading about it, was intrigued, always saw the car, and I was like, what is that car? And that's how I kind of come to learn about these Lincolns and kind of just always appreciated them. And then I mentioned before in the 1989, it's kind of a cult classic skateboarding movie called Gleaming the Cube. If you've never seen it and you're of my age, or you haven't seen it in forever, I think it's available still on Amazon Prime Video for free. But that 1989 movie had a 65 Lincoln in it, actually a black Lincoln, and you can actually see the deck lid working in it, in just a few like little interior shots and whatnot. When Christian Slater is in the back seat of the car, they actually throw a guy into the trunk of it in the movie. But always been intrigued by the car since I was younger. And before we jump into this issue, like for instance, these are type of books that I've always read. Like this one was James Tague, and he was actually there under the triple underpass the day of the assassination. He's the only other person that was injured other than those in the motorcade, because his ear was nicked by the bullet. So some of you probably know that story. There's a lot of theories on how that happened. Was there another shot that ricocheted? There was if you read this book, there was a piece of the curb that was removed, and it was in the National Archives, and you could go see it to a certain extent. Back in the day, years ago, people would go there to, do tests or look at it or inspect it, and then it was magically lost, like so many other crazy things that have happened. But pretty cool. This is actually a signed copy. Bought this from, I want to say eBay, but it was his actual store back in the day, and it's pretty cool book. But anyways, a little bit of insight there to why I kind of fell in love with these Lincolns. And being in Clearwater, Florida, of course, I've got some of the best resources in the world when it comes to these cars. So I'm so thankful to those that have kind of taken me under their wing to kind of show me the ropes, so to speak. I'll put that aside, but here you go. Here's really the title of this this upload of this video, Motor Trend, and I began doing a very similar thing on my OLP. Trying to get it to kind of focus there. It is a little dark in here, but on the OLP podcast, I've been going through older truck magazines, and it's really kind of gaining some steam. So I figured this is one that's in my collection. I kind of keep it in a sleeve in the binder, kind of a small 3-ring binder. I think it's an inch binder. In that binder, I recently kind of mentioned this magazine. If you go back and look at the other videos, I kind of did just one night, got an idea to kind of go through some of the things I've collected and have in that binder, and this is one of those. Now, 64 is arguably for many is their favorite year. I think not only the styling of it with the grill the way it was, kind of a little bit forward facing with how these bars are, they kind of point forward, the 5 of those. They obviously had, if you look at photos and you're not kind of a Lincoln connoisseur, so to speak, you'll know, or you'll often, it's hard to tell the 61 through maybe 5s apart. And one of the ways you know it's a 4 or 5 is it has flat glass on it. It does not have the curved glass in 64 or 65. So if it's a side angle photo, it's a pretty much dead giveaway right away if it's a 4 or 5, because it has that flat glass on it. Of course, in 66, the styles changed a little bit. The body style did. But, the 1 through 5 can sometimes be a challenge to tell apart from the side angle. Now, if, let's say, it was a side angle shot and you're like, man, is it a 4 or 5? Well, on the 65s, and on the you could tell on the taillights, they kind of have the, I don't know what you call it. I'll call it bars, if you will, on the outside of the lens. At least, I don't know what the proper term is. But you'll see, the cage, if you will, on the light. That's what it's probably referred to as. And then on the front, you'll actually see the turn signal where it's actually in the fender. So from that side view, you could go, boom, it's a 64, 65, and then you look there because it has the flat glass, and then you can quickly tell if it's a 4 or 5. Now, a lot of folk, not a lot, but some will put the 65 taillights because they like them on the rears. That's sometimes something to kind of look for, but not a whole bunch of people are doing that. But here you go. Now, because I'm taking the time to do the video, I'm going to go through each page just because, and then we'll stop, of course, at the road test, which I thought was pretty cool. So one thing I really love about older magazines is you get to see the vintage advertising, which I think is just awesome. I do have some 80s magazines, well, a lot of truck magazines, but I have some 80s magazines from my dad had a friend, or he worked with someone that worked at Eastern Airlines back in the day, and they would have, I have to dig one out one day, they would put them, it would say Eastern right down here in kind of a brown, binding, if you will, and then they would put a clear piece on the front and back. I don't know, I guess they would just take magazines and they would do that to kind of protect them. And it's pretty cool for me to look back at kind of some of the vintage advertising, whether it be like electronics, like Panasonic and things like that. Hopefully this is, with the low light, hopefully this is, it seems like it's not focusing perfect, but we'll see how good it does here. Kind of tap on, try to get it to autofocus. There you go. But I don't have a lot of car magazines from the 60s, but anything with Lincoln stuff, if you haven't found out by now, with my love for Lincolns, of course, I try to collect as much stuff as I can. It can get expensive and it can kind of get addicting, but I try to limit it to certain things, kind of make a list of the few things I want. And then, of course, I'll look when we go. Tony and I have been to the Webster thing. On some of the weekends we would go up there. It's hard to find Lincoln stuff. I know Chris Dunn at Lincoln Land. He's got an amazing collection of all kinds of cool stuff. We've seen him a couple times. He'll meet us at local car shows or little picnics and stuff. And whatever car he'd be driving, he'd have all kinds of cool literature in it. And I always thought it was awesome because he probably has just an amazing collection of everything. I've been to his house one time, didn't really get a chance to, we kind of stayed in the garage most of the time, but hopefully make it back there again and see some of his other cool stuff. So here it is. This is the Lincoln Continental road test. This is by Bob McVay. So I've hashtagged his name before, I'm pretty sure. And I'll zoom in here in case anybody wants to pause it. And I'll try to get it to autofocus there. Here it says, Lincoln's first major decision change since 61 gives the Continental more room, more luxury for 64. And what I thought was cool is I'm pretty sure, I got to dig it out, for the 65 road test, which against 4s and 5s are very similar, I'm pretty sure Bob McVay did that road test as well, and he may have done others. I just haven't had an opportunity to collect those issues. So I'm just going to tap on here and kind of go slow for anybody that may want to read this. I've read through it. I thought it was pretty cool. I'll try to point out something here that I thought was interesting. Really did a cool, what I'd say, old school road test. Motor Trend was really known for these, so you could imagine before the days of internet, they these companies would go through a ton because people were obviously reading these magazines to make a decision on that $5 or $6 grand or $7 grand. I think it was like in the $6,000s or $5,000 to $6,000 range. If they would, if your family would be purchasing that new car for that year. And then here's some of the captions from the photos. And kind of doing the video, it's hard to kind of read through everything. But it does say right there, number 4, heavier by 700 pounds. Convertible took more feet for 60 mile per hour stop than last year's sedan. So they really kind of compared the previous years and things like that, which I thought was pretty awesome. So again, you see a whole nother page here. And what I like about it is they also kind of would accompany some pretty cool photos here, putting the top up and down. Of course, you got the iconic hood ornament there, top down there, showing some of the different things, the different parts of the top up, top down cycle. And then over here, I always like this photo. Looks like he's kind of coming around that turn pretty good. It looks like, at least in there. What I thought was ironic is it doesn't even look like he's on the road. It looks like he's on the shoulder. So got a lot of specifications. So there you go. Price listed was like $6,900. Prices tested, though, of course, you see there was about, I don't know, $700 more, give or take. Odometer reading at start of test, so they showed you that, 4250, and then recommended engine red line was 5200 RPMs. So it kind of showed some pretty cool stuff there. And then here, let me try to focus here. It says air conditioning. That was obviously an extra option. $690 for door edge guards plus $205 transportation, and the total comes to $76.86. And that kind of was continued. Obviously, I kind of tried to zoom in over here. It kind of was continued from down here with a base price of $69.19. Our convertible ranks as one of the highest priced cars on the American market. And then it says add 504 for air conditioning. Again, you will find these on eBay a lot without AC. The last Lincoln Addict podcast, we had the homie from up in Canada, and he talked about how his doesn't have AC, and that's not a bad thing. It's just it was an option. It talks about there we couldn't find any major complaints with the Continental. Luggage room in the convertible is almost non-existent with the top down. And the heater air conditioner seems more complicated to operate than units on cars in the same price range. The car's unit construction, I think that, I don't know, unibody construction, body proved completely tight and rattle free. So just reading through a couple of those little things. I think I got this over here, all those captions, in case anybody wants to go through and read this. There was, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. there was something in here that talked about the bucket seats, which were the contour seats. And right here. It says, our test was fitted with top grain leather upholstery with expanded vinyl door trim panels and wood grain door inserts, individually adjustable front seats with a center console can be ordered. Get this, for an additional $281.40. I don't know all about what happened. There was apparently a fire at Ford at some point, and I'd love to talk more about this on the podcast in the future if I can get more information. But when the fire happened, apparently I've seen this in the LincolnForum.net, a bunch of records were destroyed. So apparently there's no one that knows exactly how many of the cars had certain features, including the contour bucket seats. I say that because a lot of people, I own a couple sets of the bucket seats. It's really one of the most sought after things, at least nowadays. I actually love my bench seat. My wife was like, please don't change it. The bench is cool. Bench seat, works great. Obviously have went through it, cleaned it up, re-greased a lot of stuff. Nathan Wilson has some really, really cool videos on doing that, and kind of going through the transmissions and things like that for the seat deals. But I say all that because, many people are often looking for the bucket seats, and the bucket seats now, if you're lucky, you'll get them a little cheaper, but for the most part, the going rate's going to run you at least $2,000, easily $3,500. If you want someone to kind of quote unquote go through them and have them fully functioning, you could easily pay $3,500. But I say that because, again, if you look back at the option for $281, talk about that investment for any cars that pop up with bucket seats, they just seem a little bit more sought after. The other thing, and I'm just kind of flipping through here because I've got about a 20-minute threshold on my YouTube videos, I believe, still. The other thing that's interesting is with the bucket seats, they come with the awesome console. The duct work underneath it was a little bit different from everything that I've understood from, rest in peace, Tim Nill, who had the Lincoln Ranch. He had kind of taught me some stuff. I know John Cashman knows all the stuff about, the bucket seats and things like that. Jim Ayers as well. But it is cool to still see, those pop up here and there. And again, I own a couple of different sets, none for a 64. But even if I did, I'm not sure that I would swap them out because I really do love the bench seat. So just kind of finishing this out for anybody that's interested in anything else that's in this issue. Again, if you have an opportunity, go out and search Lincoln Addict Podcast. You can also go to lincolnaddictpodcast.podbean.com, or if you Google Lincoln Addict Podcast, it's probably going to land you on that page. And that's important because technically, let's say, you didn't have a smartphone or you didn't want to listen through an app, you can listen right there. Like, let's say you're at work and you've got your computer up, you could pull up a browser and just go to lincolnaddictpodbean.com and just hit play right there. And that's my landing website for Podbean. And we've had John Cashman on. We've had a lot of other great people on that share their knowledge. And if you know these cars or you're interested in them at all, you'll know that knowledge is key. The LincolnForum.net is one of the best places out there. I know Facebook has kind of seemingly replaced forums, but the documentation is unparalleled. You can search for things, and if you search for certain keywords, you will find what you're looking for. I've got a build thread out there for my 64 Lincoln Project Smugglers Blues. That's Smugglers with an S. Check it out when you get a chance. And this has been a flip through, as I call them, of Motor Trend Magazine, April 1964, and it was only 50 cents or 60 cents for our friends up in Canada. So to Pat, to Frank, to all of our followers and supporters up there in Canada, stay safe, everyone out there, and stay, as Tony Boss Bolin and I always say, on the rise. We out of here. Later.